Welcome to Try Not to Overthink It. I'm RJ.
I'm unique.
And I'm Khalil.
Every day, just like you, we find ourselves trying to make sense of this crazy thing that we call life. As peers in the healthcare profession, we find ourselves discussing and debating many different topics. And after many heated debates, we decided to both expand upon these topics and give them to you from our viewpoints as licensed therapists and social workers. If this is your first time here, we'd like to thank you for checking us out and we hope that you'll stay and become part of the tribe and participate in the conversations. So today we are going to talk about bringing out the full potential of your relationship. When it comes to relationships, there are certain expectations that should be met if you are hoping to deepen the connection. For many of us, once we get busy and things start to run amok in our lives, we easily forget what is important in a relationship and what's not. We sometimes tend to focus on tangible things in regards to our partners, such as the car they drive, how much money they make, the job they have, or, how their body looks. All those things are very important. And although they may be important and they're good qualities to have in a partner, a relationship isn't built on those superficial things. And so today we're going to talk about the more important things, the intangible things that will help strengthen your relationship and deepen your relationship and broaden.
I agree. I guess we have, when you're looking at reaching the greatest maximum potential in your relationships, I think it goes to kind of setting what the standard is first.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
And then actualized potential has to do with, and I think I narrowed it down to two things, exposure and knowledge base, right? Yeah. So I can't be more than what I know, and I can't know more than what I'm exposed to, right? And so when you're looking at potential in your relationships and having the greatest amount of potential, then you have to look at your knowledge base and your exposure. Where are you getting your knowledge from, and who are you exposing yourself to? So before I'm able to be accountable, because even in being accountable, it's your knowledge base and your exposure. You can only be held accountable for what you're knowledgeable about and exposed to. Yeah. And so when you're thinking about the potential, I think establishing that in the beginning, one of the things, I think I was doing a devotional with my husband, and in the devotional, it was talking about the importance of choosing marriage mentors. We're newly married, less than 5 years. And so one of the things that they were saying is choose someone at the place that you want to be. Right? Who either they have kids around the same age as yours, but their dynamics are aligned with your dynamic. And the reason being is because they're able to coach you through the things that you don't know and expose you to the life that you actually want. And prior to being married, that was something that I was intentional about. I remember it like it was yesterday, but I was around my single girlfriends, and out of the blue, I was just like, I'm going to have married friends now. And they said, why? You're not married. Why would you just have a bunch of married friends? And I was just like, well, because I want to be married. And married people do married things. And they hang out with people who want to be married. And so I didn't know my husband. He wasn't even like, okay, maybe we just dating. Nope, I wasn't dating anybody. I was single, big single. But I remember talking to my married friends, and they were like, okay, well, these are some of the attitudes you had to have. So when I got married, I was already in, okay, this is what I'm looking for. I didn't go into it as a fairy tale. I went into it as, that's what they said was going to happen. And it happened just like they said it. And so when I found myself going through certain things, it was kind of like, all right, in order to get where I want to be, I have to be willing to go through this part of it. But I would have never been ready for that if I didn't expose myself to it early on.
Right. You said a mouthful right there, because what you're getting into, we talked about on the episode before with myself, RJ, and Chasman about people trying to reach their full potential and being what they want to be. If you want to be married, like Unique said, you need to talk to some married couples. And most people will try to go to some type of form of counseling, or you'll meet with your pastor before you get married, so they can kind of bring you up to speed on what married life is supposed to be, some of the spiritual tenets of it. They're gonna bring you up to speed, right? So what always gets me is when single people are trying to give married people advice, or vice versa. Those things throw me for a loop sometimes, because if I want, like me, I want it to be a clinician, right? I want it to be a therapist. I started hanging around therapists, even when I was a case manager, right? I would still, RJ knows, I'll ask him questions about how he dealt with certain clients, and I'd ask other professionals, you know what I mean? Especially when I was doing my internship, like, so how would I approach this situation or problem? Because I wanted to know, if you want to be a firefighter, you're not going to go hang around a policeman. Even though they do similar type work, right? It's not the same. You really, it's about your knowledge base. You guys, that really frustrates me when people, especially single people, who don't have a desire to get married, are basically, infringing or trying to do some sort of intervention with one of their married friends. You can't give that person the proper advice unless you've been married before. Now, if you're single and you got divorced and you're trying to tell someone, hey, this is why I got divorced,
but that's the exposure that you're talking about,
right? That's different. But if you've never been married, how are you going to give advice to someone who's married? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute with me. And I want to be the best husband I can be in this relationship. So I've started to talk to other people who've been married for years. I need to gain this knowledge. I need to know how to compromise, because I don't know how to compromise. I've been married before and divorced when I was younger, and I wanted to get my way all the time. I wanted to have my way. I wanted what I want when I want it, right? And those things I had to kill off inside of me, which was very hard. And I'm having to learn how to compromise and do it with love and understanding. And so is my partner. She's never been married. And so, those things, we had to come together and really do some background study, had to read books together. We've been praying together. We've been asking other people their experiences. Well, that's the only way we're going to gain that knowledge, because I don't have the knowledge. How can I go into anything thinking I'm going to be successful if I don't have the knowledge? Just like me studying for a test. If I didn't study what I was supposed to study for that test, I'm going to fail it.
Well, I think that both of you are speaking to a level of maturity that you have to have if you're expecting your relationship to live, to survive.
If you want to be in a healthy relationship, period. It requires maturity.
Well, it's I think that for all of us, where anything starts to die, regardless if it's a relationship or not, is we get to the point to where we feel like we know everything. Being willing to seek the knowledge, being willing to constantly improve yourself, because there's always a better way. And I think that for, like you guys said, and for me, I'm the type of person, I can learn something from anybody. Somebody homeless, I can learn what not to do if I want to maintain financial stability from that person over there. If a person keeps getting fired, I can learn don't do those things if I want to maintain employment. So when it comes to things like with relationships, in order to take your relationship to the next level, like a lot of people, and I've had this conversation with people think that taking your relationship to the next level is certain things. So like, I remember I was dating somebody and their thought process of taking the relationship to the next level was spending the night with each other. And I'm like, no, something like that. That's anybody can do that. I can spend a night with anybody. But, to me, taking a relationship to the next level is doing things like taking you with me to church, us praying together, us worshiping together, taking you to meet my family, my friends, because at some point in time, if this relationship is going to go in the direction that we're intending for it to go, these are potentially maybe your friends. These are going to be people that are going to be around you all the time. So those are things that, like you guys said, going and spending time with married people, because we tend to do the things that we see.
Right.
Things that are normal to us. So when I surround myself with people who are already at the point at which I want to be, I'm more likely to get to that point versus when I am a married person, I continue to surround myself with single people. Guess what? Their single behaviors are going to start to impact me.
Right.
And I'm going to start to pick up single behaviors. And then next thing you know, I'm going to be single right along with them.
I mean, the Bible says by beholding you become changed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's not rocket science. I think it's just how the world works, because what you surround yourself around becomes your perspective. And so if my perspective is that of something contrary to what I aspire to, it's going to be that. I mean, look at negativity, right? When you're hanging around people who are negative, you become negative. I remember there was a time in undergrad, I love watching the Bad Girls Club. Mind you, I had never been in a fight in my life. I've never punched anything.
Right.
Okay. Bad Girls Club had me feeling like I was an MMA fighter, like pop off, say something to me because I'm coming at you. I was like, who is this? Who is this girl? And so I told one of my best friends, I was like, look, I just got to take a break from Bad Girls Club. She was like, why? I was like, girl, because I'm feeling angry and I don't even know why. Like, nobody even did anything. But because that's what I was beholding constantly, right? Because myself, then I started to take that persona on. Thank God I ain't had to put hands on nobody, unbeknownst to my rage that was brewing.
Well, I mean, that is, like what we had talked about in a previous episode about, the things that you allow into you. Everything, you have to look at yourself as a gate. Yeah. Your ears are gates, your eyes, your mouth, your nose, all of that stuff. So when you allow things in, that starts to affect your worldview. That it starts to affect how you interact with other people. I think that for a lot of us, one of the biggest downfalls to people being in relationships, in a serious relationship, is your pride or your ego. For me, that has always been one of my biggest things of having to be right. I've had to learn how to just shut the hell up sometimes. I don't always got to respond to everything. I don't always have to challenge everything. Everything isn't worth a confrontation. And I had to realize that one of the biggest problems with communication, just communicating with people, period, is a lot of us are not listening to receive the information. We're looking to reply. Right. We're listening to just so I can reply back. And so what I've had to realize,
just rebuttal.
Yeah, right. I've just had to realize, like, sometimes, okay, I hear what you're telling me. I'm going to take it in. We're going to come back to this conversation later, but it gives me time to process and marinate what it is that you're saying. Because for me as a man, I can tell you that, pride is a real thing. It is a real thing. And I mean, you get into the mindset where you start to think that everything that you say is right. Everything that you do is right. And sometimes that will find you by yourself or sleeping on the couch or out the house. So it's very important that you kind of put those things in check and start to recognize that sometimes understanding that your significant other just wants to be heard. You don't have to say anything. You just want to be heard. Because I know you've talked about that several times, Unique, about, having that safe space. Yeah. That safe space for us to be unabashedly, unashamedly, honest with each other. You can be honest with me and I can be honest with you, and we can both trust, because that's the important part, trust that we're going to receive it. So regardless of what you say to me, I'm going to take it and I'm going to receive it. Because there's a difference between just sitting there and listening to you. And that's where I'm just sitting there listening to you and now I'm replying. I'm not receiving what you're telling me. Right. I'm not doing that piece. And I think that for a lot of us, we miss that piece when it comes to growing together, because there's, and I cannot stress this enough. If your relationship is worth having, it's worth working at. Right.
No. Don't pass it. Don't pass it. Say that one more time, because somebody missed it.
If your relationship is worth having, it's worth working at.
And you're going to have to do it.
Yeah. Every day. like
process.
Like a lot of us, and I said this last episode, that, love without work is death. Just like worship, faith without works is death. If you could say you love somebody all day, But if you're not putting in that work to show them that you love them, because words, they're nice and they're good to hear, but if they're
words
not,
only mean something with action.
Exactly, right. Like they hit different when the action's behind them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When the action's behind them. So I mean, for me, like I'm a big person on actions. I'm an actions person. Because anybody can tell you anything, but I'm a person that feeds into actions. Your actions are what tell me how to treat you. Your actions are what tell me how to respond to you. Your, my actions and vice versa, my actions do the same thing.
Do the same, exactly.
And the reality is your actions define the words that you just told me.
Exactly.
Right? Because if you tell me, okay, I love you, and you do nothing, then I see that your love means nothing.
Right.
But if you tell me you love me and you do something that shows, it affirms that, then I say, okay, this person is loving. This is what love looks like for them. If you say that you're kind and every time you open your mouth, you are a mean, surly, who,
right?
Or what, then I'm going to just assess, this is what kindness means to you. This is your definition of kindness. And they don't vibe with me that way. That's not how I would define it. And so therefore, I'm not going to be in the space with you to receive your level of kindness. And so I think you're spot on in that, because people are like, oh, I'm an action person. What you say doesn't matter. And I think we said that hastily, as opposed to saying, nah, what you say is shown by what you do.
Yeah.
And I only can believe when the two unite. That's what I can believe. I can't believe anything other than what you showing me.
Right. Well, I had a similar struggle with a client I was dealing with him and his wife. They got married pretty fast after knowing each other. And, every time he asked her to do something, there was always some sort of argument around it. And so he was very stressed out. And the funniest part is the way he approached her, only if he was very stern and argued, would she do that thing he asked her to do? And I had to tell him, I said, well, let me know a little bit about her background, how she was raised, right? And she was raised in a rough environment. Her father was in and out of her life. She wasn't there. Just really her mom and I believe another sibling. And there was a lot of fighting going on in the household. And when someone in her household, when someone really wanted something to be done, there was an argument. There's a fight. And so people have to know, just by the way we're raised, our different backgrounds, how you communicate to that person and how they process the information, it could be completely different than what you're used to. And I had to kind of guide him through that. And I said, you're going to have a sit down with her. And you're going to have to explain that you don't want to fight in order to get your point across. And I think just by people's backgrounds, their cultures, when they come together in a relationship, a lot of that gets lost in translation. So if you're with someone like that, and I always got to fight you down to get you to do something, there's a problem. That's most people are going to be like, man, this isn't a healthy situation. And so he was very stressed out. And we finally got him to sit down and talk with her. And she went through her background. She's like, when my mom wanted me to do something, man, she'd come through yelling and tearing, look, belts flying and everything. And then we all got motivated. And he said, well, I don't want to have to do that. That's crazy. You're going to get me locked up. We had a good conversation about this in order for their relationship to evolve. And I think people take that for granted. We're all raised differently. We need to learn how to communicate. Communication is not just listening to what you say and then I push it aside, because I need to see some action. That shows me what type of person, that shows me your character. So we're going to have to work on this if we want our relationship to evolve, and people don't get that. Active listening skills, using the I statements. We always talk about that. In order for me to reach that next level of communication with you, you're going to have to process. I might have to give you time to process the information the right way. Not everybody is as sharp. Not everybody is as quick with processing information. But the communication skills is where I think with any relationship, but in my own marriage, that's what brought my marriage to the next level, is when we started communicating with one another. My wife doesn't yell at me the way she used to when we were dating, right? She's like, that don't work with him. Once she starts yelling, I have a lot of PTSD with that.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, my mom was one of those people. She started yelling. I'd be like, you know what? I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'm going. Yeah, and my mom's a wonderful person, but that was just a part of how she was raised to get things done. It's a lot of yelling and it ain't no passive aggressive. This is aggressive. Like, I told you to do this. So my wife had to learn how to tone down when she communicated with me. Babe, this is really important. I need them blinds up. If you can get that done by the end of the day, it'd be a blessing. Blinds are done. I'll show her I love you and I respect you enough to meet what you said, meet your demands, whatever it is. I'm going to do it. And I would do it. But if you come at me and you yell, then blinds are going to sit there for a week.
I think what you talked about there is you introduced another level, because you talked about knowledge and exposure, but you also introduce expectations. A lot of times we go into our relationships looking for it to be one way and to reach here, but we don't communicate the expectations needed to get there. Right? So, okay, I need the blinds up is one thing, right? But the expectation is so that people can't look at me while I'm getting dressed. They don't see all the nice stuff we buy in our house. I don't care that, I do not care to share this portion of my life with the neighbors. Okay? Right. I want privacy. So the expectation is not just the blinds, right? Because if we just put it at the blinds, that might be something where it's just like, bro, that ain't that serious. But when you put that expectation behind it, I'm expecting you to be my protector.
Your safety aspect.
Right? I'm expecting you to be the person who is my handyman, right? My errand person who I know I can trust. If Khalil put them blinds up, them things gonna be up till we move this house.
Right.
Okay. And so it's not just because I'm sure your wife could get up there and put them blinds herself. If she wanted to. Right. There's nothing that prevents her from doing that. I have a husband that I have fixed a many things because I just wanted to.
Right.
But then there's another level of that expectations. When I sign up for this role, these are the things. Right. And not even just gender role, just the role of partner. Like when you come into my life, there are certain things that I expect. I'll put it in the thing of friendship, just using it with like Rajamel and I. When Rajamel and I, we've been friends now for probably 10 years?
Longer than that, about like 14, 15.
Yeah. So when you're looking at
completely off, usually women always have some math.
Because what I thought about was when we graduated, but we've been friends before that. So when we look at that, right, where we started off in the beginning, my expectations were way lower for him. I was just like, he just was the guy that used to laugh and throw stuff at me. That's all I expected from him, was to be mayhem.
That's low expectations. He'd just be clowning. That's it.
That's all I expected from him. But now, 13, 14 years into this friendship, there's a higher level of expectation because consistently he has grown. Consistently, he is able to match his actions with his words, right? My husband and I, that's one of the things, like I said, with us being newly married, we're laying that foundation of, okay, over time, this is the consistency that I need. Are we perfect at it? Heavens no, because mom must be watching this show. So heavens no. But I think that in order to take the relationship to the next level, it's the one of the words is being intentional, right?
For sure.
Because we could talk about bodies. Go ahead, Roger.
I think that for like both of you guys hit on the head some of the thoughts that I was having. When it comes to your relationship, there has to be, like Khalil said, the trust. It has to be, like you said, the accountability. There has to be communication. There has to be, intentionality. There has to be compassion and grace that we give to each other because,
heavy on the compassion.
Yeah, heavy on the compassion and the grace. Like you're gonna need several scoops of that.
I'm a gallon of it.
Because, there's going to be those times where your significant other does not reach the expectations.
Yeah.
They don't hit that mark. And you may not either.
I'm about to say, that's what I was about to say. You might not. And so you treat your spouse or you treat your partner with the broken down version of you because you didn't meet your expectations that you have for yourself.
Right.
But that's where, again, that is where the communication comes in. Yeah. We should be able to sit down and talk and discuss and dialogue of where the expectation was reached and where it wasn't reached. Mm-hmm. And I had this conversation with one of my exes one time where, I was just honest with her. I was just like, for you, when I did something wrong or I did something you were displeased with, the energy was real big. Mm-hmm. When I did something correct or I did something right, the energy wasn't the same. Mm-hmm. To me, the energy always has to be equivalent. When your significant other doesn't hit that expectation and doesn't hit that mark or doesn't get the score that you feel that they should have gotten, mm-hmm. Again, be reassuring and comforting and supportive and have those conversations and explain to them why you're expecting something different. Mm-hmm. But also at the same time, when they do the things that you're needing them to do, the energy should be way higher. Right. What we tend to do is we tend to take people for granted. Mm-hmm. You were supposed to do that. You're supposed to do that. I don't even say thank you. I don't even express that I appreciate you doing whatever you did for me. Mm-hmm. And so as we grow older, as children, we're taught through positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement.
Yep. Right. Yep.
When you're potty training your child, you're celebrating them every time they go use the potty.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then if they pee themselves or they wet the bed, you explain to them, hey, you're supposed to go to the potty when you got to go to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. Or if you feel yourself, you got to go. Let me know so we go to the bathroom.
You made a mistake.
Exactly. Yeah. So
when they're little, because you don't want to crush their spirit.
Yeah, you want to reinforce and develop that confidence in them. Because again, as someone's significant other, you should be feeding and pouring into them.
Yep. But you know what? That right there, I think it just gets so crazy because it gets easy to point out all of the negatives. That's why it's important to look at what you're focusing on, right? Mm-hmm. And who you're surrounding yourself with.
Right.
Because man, listen, that thing, it gets really easy to point out all of the bad stuff and becomes harder and harder when that's your focus, but it becomes harder and harder to see those positive things like you were talking about, Raja, like, oh, you took out the trash from me today. Granted, it's the trash for us, because if y'all live together, oh, you took out our garbage. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Oh, you washed our dishes. Thanks. I had an old couple. They were like, everything is a we. Everything is a we. Oh, we missed that bill, huh? What are we going to eat for dinner? Oh, we didn't clean our bathroom today. When are we going to do that? And so, look, when he said, I was like, I'm not trying to we that, no. But he was spot on because the more you celebrate the togetherness, the less you can find that space for I did this, you didn't do that, And but I'm telling you, that thing it's hard.
It is.
It's hard.
Speaking on that. I missed the trash run on Wednesday. Our trash comes out to the county on Wednesday, and I missed the trash run. This was last week, and so this week I said I'm be proactive. I put that trash out on the side of the night because last week, wife got in the house and said, "Ain't nobody put the trash out. We missed the trash." And I had to hop out the bed. I was like, "Oh damn," because it was a lot of trash, and so a lot of times it's like, well, I feel like it's either me, my stepson, someone, we catch the blame. And you know what? The funniest part about it is I said, we missed the trash. I had to redirect her on. I said, we all missed it because multiple hands could have took that trash out. And I get what that gentleman was saying because that individuality, that's when I start seeing other people's flaws instead of looking at it as we as a couple or as a family. Well,
not even just that, but when you are in a relationship, it is no longer you singular by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You guys are a united front now.
Yep. On everything.
on everything. Every decision should be made in unison.
Yes.
Unanimously. We made like there was a skit, there's a skit on YouTube. I can't remember what the guy's name is, but he got ready to go somewhere. And so his wife was like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "I'm going to go hang out with my friends." Now it was their day to, I guess, sit around the house and watch a television show. So when he goes to the door, she's standing right there by the door with the gun pointed at him. And she was like, "We married. We gonna sit in this house and watch Golden Girls. That's right. What we doing today.
We gonna do."
Yeah. And so we decided. Exactly.
And so it's one of those things where, like we talked about, a closed fist versus an individual finger. When, a closed fist is much stronger when it's together like this versus when it's like this. And so when you are standing united together through everything, through the thick and the thin, because there is nothing, and I can tell you, there is nothing like going through struggle with somebody to find out how real they are about you. Because that's going to tell you everything you need to know if the person is really for you or not. Because people will say that they're ride or die until it's time to do some dying. Until it's time to do some riding. Then people, they kind of, you get a chance to really see they wasn't really fooling with you that tough in the first place. But when people can stand by you when you're down bad, that's how you know that person's supposed to be in your life. And we have to get to the point to where, like you guys said, we have to collectively celebrate the victories and the triumphs and not be so quick to point out the individual failures. Because again, we're in a relationship, and with us being in a relationship, we win together and we lose together. And so it has to be one of those things where we're fostering that closeness, that groupthink where we're in this together.
But that's what you gotta be having on a comparison. Go ahead.
I think that for a lot of us, what ends up happening, we have it the exact opposite, where when we're out in public, I disagree with you, or we arguing about it right there in front of me. Right. And one of the things that my mom always told me, when I was a child, was that outside the house, we all on the same page. We all thinking the same thing. Yep. Now, once we get back in this house, we can disagree. We can disagree at that
point. I think that's cultural, because if you get out of the house with black people, it's like we all together at this point.
That's it.
All of us. It ain't just one person. You have to. Yeah, my mom.
That's because we was all raised in the same house.
Right. But and you have to, when you grow up, you have to start realizing that collectivism is real in different cultures. Europeans are naturally more individualistic, not knocking that, but the thing is, you want people to realize that, though, that's how we're supposed to come together as people, because naturally, especially the agricultural shift that happened to people in society, right? We had to farm, we had to cultivate. You got to do that. You need a lot of hands on deck to do that. You can't do that by yourself. And then you get into this type of corporate structure where everybody's working a different job in different places like that. We fall away from that, and you fall into more of that individuality. But really, a household's supposed to come together. That's always been the original purpose of the house. We all supposed to come together. So I think that needs to be pushed more in relationships.
But see, like that goes back to in the episode where we talked about, the man leading. Somebody's got to lead. Somebody's got to lead, and somebody's got to be, in lockstep behind them. And so, like, I think that for a lot of us, we have to, as Unique said, we got to move with intention and purpose. By moving with intention and purpose, that is what allows you to be able to make the best decisions in regards to leadership. Yeah. Like for me as the man, I can't just go into the relationship. Oh, I'm the man. That means I'm in charge. I have to show you that I'm capable of being in charge, and that you can trust me to be in charge.
Right.
And that you being in charge has the best interest for everybody in the
whole tribe.
Collective.
In the collective.
And that's where I feel like for a lot of us, and this is where you and your mate have to sit down and have these dialogues, these conversations, because there's going to be things that for me as the man, we'll just use me hypothetically, for me as the man that I'm weak in, there's going to be things that you're strong in and vice versa. So there may be times where you have to take the lead And then I get behind you and champion what you're saying. And then there's going to be times where you get behind me and champion me.
Not even, I don't even think that's saying, okay, I'm going to take a back seat. As the leader, you recognize that someone is more talented.
Right.
And so, look, step up. Hey, you got to represent the team. You got to get up here and you better talk real good. Because
I don't like talking. You better
team go. You better say it because you represent us. Okay,
it's not even about taking a back seat, because in a relationship there is no back seat, front seat.
There is none.
Right.
This is a partnership. We stand beside each other. Because you hear that saying that behind every strong man is a strong woman. No, beside me. Because again, you are my equals in all things, because when we go down, we're going down together.
Listen.
And because we collectively, like you said, like the older couple, the reason they use those terms "we" is because their thought process is different. They come from a different generation.
Well, he said when I talked to him, he said they started off individually, right? The wife was like, "Oh, you forgot this, you forgot that," and they said one day they had this huge argument, and they were like not talking to each other. It was horrible, and they said from that moment forward, they decided we, not me.
Yep.
Because they were like, in order for this marriage to work, we got to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm not a violent person. Outside of pinching, I will pinch you to death. I will pinch. I like to pinch.
She threatens me on a regular basis.
But I've never put my hands on this man. I admit, I have promised to punch him in the eye, and that's why I do it for you.
That was the last episode, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I promise to punch him in the eye, and I will. If he ever raises me to that level,
right,
in our friendship, I will put the meaning behind punching him in the eye.
Well, listen, because we're together, you can't use "we." We're gonna get punched in the eye.
We gonna punch him in the eye, Khalil. Because if not, you better ride with me, Khalil. Khalil, you better hold his arms back so he can't punch me, so I can run. Okay? Because we gonna do it.
You get punched in the eye.
Don't let her get you in trouble.
So this is I was, one of the things I was saying with the "we," I think it's easier to, when I said heavy on the compassion, I meant that because it's easier to go ahead and give somebody the leeway when you like, oh, dang, we forgot the trash. Oh, he must have been tired today. Man, I ain't even see it either. Because that's that heavy on that compassion. You get mad less. When you heavy on compassion, it's just like, you know what? Bro, we all needed a break today.
We was tired. Yeah, we all was tired.
Look, we about to go find a dumpster to put this in and just dump and dash. Cause we go. But when you have that compassion for your spouse, I feel like you just, like I said, don't get upset that often because you're looking at them from the lens of them, right? And then your spouse also does the same thing. They're looking at it from like, oh man, they ain't even say nothing about that.
Right.
Wow. Are they slipping? Should I trust my dinner? But when they get used to that compassion living, then they're going to have that same level of compassion on you. But I think that's if we're talking about maturity. Mm-hmm. Getting to that level of compassion, that's where you see maturity really take its peak.
For sure.
That compassion and quick forgiveness doesn't say you weren't wrong. Mm-hmm. Forgiveness just says, I'm no longer holding you to the penalty of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not. It doesn't serve me to keep you to this penalty of this.
Right.
You go ahead and live your life.
Right.
There are consequences.
Grace. We want everybody to extend that grace to us, but what about our time?
Exactly. And that's for me as a human being, I fail all the time. So I definitely need the grace. So that's why I'm quick to give the grace. And I think that for a lot of us, being grounded in something spiritual, I think that for, that's why, like for me, worship is a very important thing. It's a very important thing for me. That's how I know if this relationship is going to go from us just entertaining each other and watching each other breathe into something deeper is if we can sit down and worship together. Because again, like for me, a lot of my life centers around being grounded spiritually, and being guided.
I'm going to tell you this one thing though. Do not worship unless you want God to get in your business.
Right.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
If you ain't trying to grow and you still trying to cuss any and everybody out, don't do it. It's just not for you. Do not recommend.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to say it here. Like I said, my husband probably would chop my neck off. But I was furious with this man. Roger Mel, I even called. I was like, Roger, I don't know. But the Holy Spirit said, start worshiping. I was like, oh, here we go. Well, I was like, I've committed to daily devotion. I was like, all right, I'm going to just get up. Before my feet hit the floor to even go to the bathroom, I'm going to start worshiping. Do you know my husband's attitude towards me changed? And I said, I said nothing to him. I had one conversation and I said nothing else. I didn't tell him any more expectations. I didn't say anything else. And I told Roger Mel, he said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm just going to worship and pray.
Right.
And I promise you, I asked my husband to do something. He was like, yeah, we can do that. I was like,
right.
What is this? Because I let go of my need to be right and be justified and said, God, I'm just going to swallow my pride, like you talked about earlier, Roger Mel, and be able to administer the level of compassion that I want from God. Not even that I want from my husband, that I want from God. And I was just like, oh God, you really in my bushes today. Every devotion was like coming from me. I was like, oh, okay, bro, you don't have to yell.
Right.
You don't got to talk to me like that, God.
Right? Paying for patience, God to give you the opportunity. That's how the God of the universe works, right? Pray for patience. There's always going to be somebody trying to push my buttons after.
Like, not even pushing the button. They got to press it. And
they got to press it. They
got a tape on it. Yeah. And smiling.
Yeah.
Is that it yet?
But you can grow after those. After all those incidents, you're going to grow.
You're
going to come to an
understanding
understanding of why we have to extend that grace to other people. I work at an inpatient facility, and I'm always sitting there baffled when everybody's snitching on each other. Everybody's telling. And I said, well, where's this grace at? Because, you've done the same thing to somebody else. That's why I had another person telling on you just a few seconds ago. And it's like, where is it at? Why can't we do that as people and start showing some grace? Because I know I'm not always perfect. I know there's a lot of times where I'm off kilter. There's days where I say some things and I'm like, did I really just say that to someone?
I'm going to tell y'all why. And it's the men's fault.
Yeah. Well, look.
Because when Eve needed a little compassion,
didn't get it.
My boy Adam threw her under the bus for the big man.
Woman you gave me.
Okay? When he could have said, ride or die. Listen, my wife gave it to me and I ate it because that's my name. He did not.
Ate it. Yeah, look, it's a
we did. That's how he could have came up at God. And we did, but he did it. And since then, y'all been throwing us under the bus.
Well, I mean, not even. I don't even think it's just that he threw her under the bus. But the thing is,
he did.
You have to look at if she was following him and being led by him the appropriate way.
He let go of her hand.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying.
So, which was his fault. He let go of my girl's hand. Had he had my girl hand in hand, when she would have walked past that tree, my girl, he would have been like, "Baby, that ain't the look."
No, we moving. We not.
We going somewhere else.
Yeah, but think about it, right? This is also why we talk about people being in relationships and communicating, because something was different in that garden that day, right? Hypothetically, we can just use it as however we'd like to, but spiritually, we know something was different because something was talking that usually didn't talk before. That's a red flag. There's some signals that should go on if I'm here to protect my mate and I'm supposed to be her protector, provider. There's something that thing didn't do that yesterday. We need to go to the higher power right now. We need to go to God because I got to talk to Jehovah about this one, right? Because this didn't happen yesterday. He didn't tell me about this one. So those are things that I look at in the modern day family, right? When something's going wrong, we need to stick together. We need to figure out like this problem that we're having right here. We need to come together on this.
But you're only going to be able to do that when you're clued in.
Right.
Right? When you, what's the old song that said, when I move, you move, just like that. But if you ain't close enough, when I move, I'm moving solo. In order to move like I move, we gotta be shoulder to shoulder, right? When when you talk about, I've never been in the military, and I've never been in the trenches. But when I hear people talk about it, when you in the trenches, you shoulder to shoulder. So you seeing what the other person's seeing. Right. Whether we back to back, shoulder to shoulder, side, but I'm seeing the dangers as you're seeing the dangers, and I'm taking them out. I can't see that if I'm in the next trench.
Right.
So when we talk about a healthy relationship, you got to be willing to get in the trenches and be shoulder to shoulder, back to back. Like anything that comes that don't look like it, I'm taking it out. I'm taking it down. Any person, any family member, whatever.
We taking it down. Look, we taking it down.
But I'm saying somebody might see it before the other one. But I'm not sacrificing what's in the trench.
Right.
Everybody, if you're not in here, you're the enemy.
Yeah, and that's how it has to be. Like, you guys have to be on a shared mission, on a shared purpose. And for a lot of us, because we're like, when we get into relationships, we get into it for completely different reasons. Yep. And sometimes those completely different reasons are the wrong reasons. I'm in the relationship looking for something long term. You're looking for something that's short term, that's instant gratification, like a hot pocket. So because we get into the relationship for different reasons, the relationship is doomed to fail right off the bat. But that's where, when you sit down and you are dating people, and I always go back to this, courting people and dating people, when you're going through the whole courtship phase, that is where you get a chance to sit down and discuss those things. What are you looking for in a potential mate?
Right.
You know, some of the questions I treat dating like an interview, like a job interview. Where do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? Do you want children?
With another partner? That's if people were to be honest. Right?
You know, and you ask these questions not to pry or interrogate or to grill somebody, but again, this is.
But they also pry, interrogate, and grill, because I'm saying, if you're trying to build something with me, and you're trying to, am I going to look to invest into you? I'm not investing my time, my money, my energy in something that's not going to be forthcoming. I'm just not. And so you can call whatever you need to make yourself go to sleep at night. But I'm doing all of it. I am. It's a full-on interrogation, because we talked about it in a couple of episodes, how everybody's they don't have the same level of access. And if you're looking for top level clearance, then you got to do top level clearance stuff. And I got to ask some questions, and I got to vet certain things. I cannot get top government clearance in this country being a regular citizen. I just can't.
And for those,
they're never going to grant it.
For those who've applied for a government position, you know that background check is ruthless. Because I've applied to one. They call in them references, and they're going to look at your past, where you lived, how many times you've been locked up, if you have been locked up.
If you got family members that have been locked up.
Family members who've been locked up. You need to know these things. When people are applying for the security clearance, I had a friend, he's like, well, Khalil, you know, I had to put your name down, because any close relatives or friends, they need to know when they go through to do their security clearance. That's how that goes.
And they need to know when that person is in trouble, who they going to run to.
Right.
I need to know your friends, because when we're having trouble, because we will,
right?
Who you going to run to tell my business? So I need to know them.
Talk about. Well, who are you going to leak this access to?
Not even just that, but you need to know who they're interacting with, because at the end of the day, by knowing who they're interacting with, you can keep things from becoming distractors or, you know, problems later on down the line. Because again, you know, as a person in a relationship, I shouldn't be having a whole bunch of single friends. You know, now it's fine to have some here and there, but if I spend a majority of my time with my single friends, guess what? I'm gonna start acting single. I'm gonna start doing single things. I'm gonna start acting in ways that will get me caught up in out of my relationship or my marriage. There are certain things that, you know, as you grow, you move different. And as you matriculate in life, you move different. You know, I remember watching an episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta, And one of the ladies was like, I got to call my husband because they were going to strip club. I got to call my husband and make sure it's okay with him for me to go. And so they gave her a hard time about her asking permission, but it wasn't her asking permission. That's called being respectful.
I'm informing my partner, hey, this is where we're trying to pull up to.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because the last thing that you want to do is create a situation of this ain't what it looked like.
Right.
Yep.
Trust.
Yep. And that is a major thing of, especially for men, is, like there's a lot of things that as a guy we will not tolerate. Being disrespectful and being disloyal, those are two of the more major things. That as a man, I'm sorry, I don't care how attractive you are. If you disrespectful or you're disloyal, I can't fool with you.
But when men do it, that's the two main things that they slip up on.
Right.
Yeah, it's very paradoxical.
Yeah, it is.
But I think when you are looking to build something healthy and solid, those are the things that you have to protect the most, right? Because if I can't trust you, if I'm not able to feel like I have complete total loyalty from you, then it's what do we have, right? We everything is in question at that point. And so when you're talking about checking in with a spouse, one of the things my parents used to teach us, like even to this day, I'm grown. I will still text my parents. If I'm going out of town, I'll let them know, hey, I'm going to be out of town. This is where I'm headed. Right. My dad was a Marine. And so my mom and they grew up in Baltimore where people don't make it home every night.
Right.
And so they used to tell us at all times, somebody has to know your whereabouts. It don't matter who it is. They got to know where you are and what you had on.
Right.
I text my husband. I'm walking around my neighborhood. If my husband does not physically see me leave my house, I will text him, hey, going on a walk, and take a picture of what I'm wearing. It's not that I'm telling him because I'm asking for his permission, but I recognize in order for us to be a team, because God forbid something were to happen to me. Now he has to talk to our larger family to say,
right.
All I know is my wife works from home.
Right.
Right? So he never expected that. But the expectation from my family would be, young man, you better have an answer about what happened to our family member. And so yeah,
I'm gonna come to you. I'm gonna say where's she at?
What you mean? You don't know what happened to her?
Yeah.
Right. And so he said we made a pact where when we step out, we gotta say it. And every time that we have not done that, where we have been somewhere without sharing, something has happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how the enemy will have it. You're able to be caught slipping when you're not sharing and you're not keeping the team informed. One, there's no accountability for your behavior, right? When I know I've already shared with my husband, this is where I'm at, I'm even going to think of it a lot safer. It looked like it's a commotion, but I ain't even walking that way because I'm not going to put my husband in danger because I know if something happens, he's rolling up. Mm-hmm. We could be furious with one another. If I tell my husband I'm in danger, he is coming. Okay? But I say that to say when we don't do that, when we don't communicate, we open the door for mayhem. Mm-hmm. Like that lady said, if she had not communicated that with her husband, hey, I'm going to the strip club with the girls, anybody could have said anything or done anything to her, and he would have been none the wiser. And she would not have had the level of protection that she could have if her husband had known. Just by telling him, hey, I'm going out with the girls to the strip club. All right, bet. Have a good time. He may have even provided her with some money.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, if something get crazy, I can roll up and get you out of there quick. Not them upper girls, but you gonna have a way out. So it's benefit in having that layer of trust and just vulnerability with your partner where nothing's off the table. Right. You talk about taking it to the next level. Start putting that true transparency where you can tell your partner nothing, everything, no holds barred, and see how your relationship starts to morph into something that is fortified and impenetrable.
Mm-hmm. Because it creates a situation where you guys know that you can trust each other unequivocally.
Right.
You know that there's no secrets. You know that they wouldn't lie to you. And there's nothing better than being able to be in a relationship with somebody and know that you can count on them and trust them 100% with everything. And I mean, I can tell you, me being me and me being lazy, I don't have time to be lying and hide nothing. So I mean, even it just is a huge relief to not have to lie and make stuff up and not have to think of come up with something.
Well, that's the thing right there, right? If I lie, then I have to cover it up.
I ain't doing it. I guess I'm lazy too because I ain't doing it.
It takes a lot of energy to do that, to keep up a lie. It's much.
Remember what I said? I ain't doing it.
Because you have people like me that remember key details of what you said.
Yep.
And the last time you said that, you was wearing a red dress. Now you're wearing a blue dress. So which one was it? So I'm gonna remember that stuff. And so for me, because the way that's how my brain works and keeps track of the conversation, I'm afraid other people's brains work the same way. So I'm just too lazy to do all that stuff.
So shout out to Medicine Society. Yeah. When he hit my man and when he talked to the police officer, he said, you done messed up, right? Well, he didn't use the word messed up. And he just kept repeating it because he knew that's what happens. If you start telling a lie and you can't back it up, there is someone who's going to catch you in it.
Look, I tell my child that all the time. Well, Mama, remember what? First of all, I don't remember you said nothing because I'm gonna tell you how you did. And she's like, God, here she go. But I'm like, nah, what you're not about to do is that because you never said it. You never did it. I don't know who you told it to, but it wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
I definitely think that it's one of those things where for a lot of us, we have to sit down and work on those things. Like some of the more minute details of your relationship tend to be the most important. Being able to converse with one another unabashedly, being able to develop that safe space, being able to comfort each other, being willing to grant each other grace and mercy when we come up short or we fail, and then just being supportive of one another. Those are the main things that will keep your relationship alive during its more difficult and tough times. Because there's no relationship that's never not going to be tested. Rather that be internal test or external test. There's going to be tests that come, and
it's not if they come; it's when they come.
Oh yeah, because they will.
Because they're going to come.
And for a lot of us, if your relationship is not built on a solid foundation, your house is going to fall apart. And that's where you see a lot of relationships fall apart because they're not built on anything of substance. They're not built upon anything that is sturdy and is going to stand the test of time. So
I wanted to say something before you get off the house analogy. I think what we have to do, because we're used to rebuilding when it should be remodeling. Even when you buy a nice house, as age comes and time goes, you will have to remodel some things. Right? You may have to repair some things in there, but you're not rebuilding your house every 10 years. You may be adding on, you may be expanding, but you're not tearing down to the studs and rebuilding. And I think in our relationships, we have to get to the point where, like you said, build that spend the time to build the solid foundation so that in the end, all you're doing is expanding and remodeling. That's it. Right? Wow. You may have to remodel the way you communicate. All right, this worked for us when we initially built this thing, and we came in here. Right. Because we both came in here with our trauma and just the way we live life, and we realized that we've accepted that we've learned each other. But now I got to remodel because we're trying to build something differently. We built something differently. We built something differently, right? And so I got to do something different. We have kids. Okay, we've expanded. So now that expansion requires some remodeling. Okay, so we got to push this out here. All right, we got to shift our time there. We got to shift this schedule here. But now it's remodeled. I'm not saying, I forget it. Well, this is my time. I'm going to do it this way. No, I gotta do it a little different because this is what I require in this space. I might require first a date night whenever I want to. Now I got to schedule a date night.
Right.
I got to schedule physical intimacy where at first we were able to be spontaneous about it and do whatever.
Yeah,
but now I got to schedule that in, or just different schedules. As you guys get older and you know, lives start to settle, just like the foundation of a house starts to settle, you start to see different cracks. When the house settled, I got to fill this in, right? I might got to call a repairman out to fix that. I may have to call a therapist in, because now that we're settled into this, we didn't realize, we didn't plan for that, but we can get it. Maybe we have to have a financial advisor to come in and say, hey, we got to restructure how we even think about money.
Yep.
Because we didn't think about this. We couldn't have, because we didn't have the exposure or the knowledge. Right? And so the expectations weren't there. But now I have to call somebody else in to fix this, because I want to I'm not looking to rebuild. Right? I'm looking to expand and to remodel. That's it.
Right. And that, in a nutshell, is reaching your full potential with a spouse, with a partner, is when you're really coming together on that expand and remodel, because we're always changing. Relationships are always they're always stacked. There's always,
because we go through different phases, different seasons of our life.
Right.
And there might be some heavy winds to come and tear some things off of it. Right? You look at them houses have been around for 100 years. Some things have hit them things. Okay.
Yeah. Tornadoes and more.
And there's had to be some major repairs from time and time. So one of the things I'm conditioning myself is, Unique, don't think of this won't happen. If and when it does, how do I plan to remedy it or get through it?
And how can I learn from it and grow from it?
How can I learn and grow from it? I used to say this even before I got married. Infidelity wasn't the worst thing that could happen to me in my marriage. It was knowing that I could not, that I failed in providing a space where my partner could tell me. Right? Because there's a part I had to realize, okay, I play a part in this. And we talked about this on our last episode with the lady whose husband found companionship in other women.
Yeah.
Right? And he was messing around. That wasn't the worst part of their marriage. The worst part was that the husband couldn't tell his wife, you're not enough.
Yeah.
And that she was not willing to give it to him. So I think when we're talking about taking the relationship to the next level, you have to be willing to hear the hard stuff.
Yep.
Right? And create a space, not even just hear it, but create a space where the hard stuff can be talked about. Right? And say, okay, I know I'm not about to like this, but okay. I need to hear it though, because in order for me to go the distance with you, I need to know the things that keep you up at night. I need to know where I can step it up. I need to know where you feel inadequate. And
also,
together we make it.
There has to be truth that's willing to be told in love. That's the only way we can remedy that situation.
In love and with respect. Because for a lot of us, what we'll tend to do is, I got to get my truth out. And when your truth is filled with arrogance and, just maliciousness, that's attacking somebody.
That's exactly.
And nobody's going to receive that. But when you speak with somebody respectfully and honestly and earnestly, people receive it differently. So being able, like Unique said, being able to establish that space for us to be able to have those real conversations where I'm not distracted by my phone. I'm not distracted by anything else. You got my full and complete and undivided attention, and we can sit down and talk with each other, not at each other. Where when you speak, I'm receiving it. When I speak, you're receiving it. And then we sit down and we dialogue and we figure out how we can kind of get past this and grow from this. Because when you are, especially like when you've gone past the dating phase and now you're in the phase of you're planning a life together, or you've now taken vows and now you're married, there is no, I'm mad at you today, so I'm packing my stuff up and I'm leaving.
You can't go.
That's not what adults do. As an adult, we have to navigate and we have to work on things. We got to be willing to go through it. Because again, if you will pack up and leave today and it's not that serious, just imagine when things get real serious, how quick you'll leave then. It sets the tone for the rest of your relationship. And that's where, for me, I always talk about doing things with a purpose. Everything I do is with a purpose. The reason I do everything with a purpose is because one thing feeds into the next thing in the chain in the, it's like links in a chain. And so when you were doing things like establishing the foundation, you're doing things like, putting up the frame of the house, and then you're doing the things like putting in the walls and the wires and all. One step leads into the next step. So when you are moving in sequential order in your relationship, you are establishing and dictating what the relationship is going to look like 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you get to the point to where you guys decide to have children, guess what? You've already laid the groundwork for raising those children too.
Right.
And for most of us, if we take the time in the beginning to be inconvenienced in the beginning, you're not inconvenienced later.
Yep.
I had this conversation with the psychiatrist I work with the other day. We were going back and forth about, having a client, adding a client to the team. And I'm like, hey, listen, either we can be inconvenienced now and do what we got to do, or be inconvenienced later. And there's a real possibility it's far worse. So you decide, you tell me what you want to do.
Right.
So, when you look at your relationships like that, of doing the inconvenient work now, doing the hard work now, it's easy. Now. It's easy later on down the line.
Down the road. Much easier down the road.
And you prevent more calamity.
Yes.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I mean, I definitely think that the groundwork has to be laid in the beginning. You can't change the rules of the game up halfway through.
And don't we say that all the time?
A lot of us do that. We start the relationship off of physical. Then we want to try to migrate from the physical to the non-physical things such as spirituality and finance and X, Y, and Z. But it's too late now. The relationship is already out of whack. When you start with those things first and then get to the physical, that doesn't become a hindrance later on down the line. But like my dad is, he was telling me, like, we were talking one time about why most marriages fail. He said there is no romance without finance.
Hello.
Hey.
If you have those conversations with your spouse at the very beginning, that doesn't become a barrier, as you said, Unique, later on in the relationship.
Right.
But most of us have to sit down and hash those things out. We'll outline those expectations, lay out what I'm looking to see come from this relationship. Because like you said, it does become a huge investment of time, effort, energy, and resources. So if I'm taking the time to figure out what is going to be needed at the beginning to get to where we collectively want this relationship to go to, we can do that in the beginning and then just, plant our seeds and then watch our harvest bloom later on down the line.
That's it.
A relationship right there. Look at that.
Yeah, man. I mean, so much of what we said, I don't think you have to wait until you have a marriage to start practicing this. Practice it with your friends.
Right.
Start showing that level of compassion to family members, man. Right? And you will see your relationships change. Because once you get into a marriage, I mean, a lot of that should have been cultivated or could have been cultivated prior to. If you do it, it makes it. Go ahead.
Because you're in it now. You're in it.
I think we've in our society, we have made marriage so trivial, and because people do it, they get married, they get divorced, get married again. I think Kim Kardashian was joking about how she's been married 7 times. She's like, ain't nobody been married and divorced more than me. Right? And she joked about it. Huh?
Yeah, and it's true. Think about it. There's a lot of people.
I think so. She talked about it on the Kardashians, so she was like, it's been like 7 times.
It's just not Kim. I've seen it with my clients. I'm like, you've been married 5 times, you've been married 4 times. That's a lot, man. That's a lot.
And so when
to go through.
When you look at it though, you gotta say, is it them or is it me?
Yeah.
And I'm not painting Kim out to be a vicious monster, because I think she has some stellar personality traits. But I think, what she was saying in that episode was like, I had to realize what I was going into them for. Right. And she didn't think she gave it enough time to do that in some of the times. And I think that's just true for a lot of us. Know what you are bringing to the situation before you get in it expecting it from someone else.
Right.
Right.
And I think that you need to understand what they bring to the table as well.
You do. And what
'cause-
their expectations are from you.
Exactly, because like when you hear people nowadays talk about relationships as a table, what does this person bring to the table?
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, what we are doing is we are combining tables
Collaborative
together.
assets.
Right.
That's it.
We are pooling everything together. I'm adding my table to your table. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, when you sit down and you discuss what those things are and you figure out what those things are, you get to establish, you find out really quickly if this person is really compatible with your lifestyle and who you are envisioning yourself to be. Because we all have an ideal vision of self. We all do. We all have an ideal vision of self. Does this person contribute to me being the best version of myself? That's what I feel like. That's what when you go into relationships, looking at it from that perspective of does this person help me reach that goal of being the ideal version of myself?
Yeah.
If it's yes, then that person is for you. If not, that person is not for you. And the reason why is because what will end up happening is you guys will be working at cross purposes.
Working against each other.
Exactly. And you guys will not grow together. You guys will grow divergent. Or one person's going to outgrow the other person because you're not equally yoked.
And then you're looking at, instead of it being asset sharing, you're looking at deficits.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's deficits at that point.
Deficits and then debt. Somebody's going to go in debt.
Yeah.
Because now there are things being taken or deposited and it's for nothing.
Right.
So I'm gonna keep pouring into here and I'm getting nothing in return.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right?
I've seen people be married for 3 years, spend $20,000 on a wedding, in 3 years be divorced. I thought that was crazy when I saw that with my own two eyes. I thought that was crazy. I was like, y'all just actually took from each other at this point.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like we tell our substance abuse clients, nobody, or people who don't understand substance abuse, nobody wakes up and is like, today's a great day to be a drug addict.
Right.
Nobody does that. Just like nobody marches down the marriage aisle, no matter how inexpensive or expensive it is, and says, today's a great day to be a divorcee. No one does that. Right?
Normally those things are they're small incremental things that became larger
monumental,
cause it to break apart.
Right.
And so that's where it's important, where you guys are sitting down and figuring out if this is the situation for you. Sitting down and moving with purpose, counting the cost. Because now, like when you look at most marriages now it is pretty much a business decision. It is pretty much a business decision because you guys are pooling assets together now. You guys are pooling credit. You guys are pooling money, property, all of those different things. And so when it comes to making a decision of that magnitude, I wouldn't make it very lightly. I would make sure that if I'm going to walk down this aisle and I'm going to invest my time, effort, and energy into somebody, that one, we are at the same point, or close to it, financially, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Why? Because at the end of the day, there may come a time with us being close to each other, not necessarily we got to be at the same point, but at least close to it. There may be where I'm at a deficit, and them being at a deficit, they can help lift me up, and vice versa. If they're at a deficit, I can lift them up, and that's where when we are working together, that is what brings out the best in us, is the fact that we can share the workload, we can share the effort, and share whatever comes our way, because we're stronger together than we are separate.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. We are running out of time, so we're going to end the conversation here. This is Try Not to Overthink It, signing out. I'm RJ.
I'm Unique.
And I'm Khalil.
And we will catch you in the next episode. If you like what you heard, we ask that you like, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We can be found on YouTube as Try Not to Overthink It. We are slowly and steadily growing each day. So we ask that you like, share, subscribe. Turn on your notifications because we drop content every week. If you would prefer to listen to the episode instead of watch the episode, we can be found on Audible, Spotify, Apple Podcast, pretty much everywhere that you can find an audio file. We can be listened to. We don't know why you'd like to listen to us instead of watch us, because then you miss out on the antics and you miss out on these pretty faces. But we ask that you join the tribe and participate in the conversations with us. But we will catch you in the next episode. Later.
Peace.